Alright, as promised, I'm gonna do a Greef Karga test in assault battles. Here are my bounty hunters. You can see I really haven't changed any of them. I'll show you Greef in a second. All my BHs are the same as before. I want to get bossed more protection, but I got this nagging little tenacity triangle there. So here's Greef, maxed out, relic 5. That's a great relic for him to have, by the way. I think that's a good touch. So here he is. He's pretty quick, 315. His base speed leaves some room to be desired, but I had a spare plus 143 set sitting around, so I threw it on him without taking from anybody important. Django, I took crit chance mods off of him in preparation for the release of Mandalorian, but here are his stats. Still pretty quick, still a decent amount of crit chance. Boba, I still have potency offset on him. I really like that AoE ability block, just in case. They're not crazy good. Dengar, I got offense and crit chance on him. Yeah, I mean, ideally maybe he has full crit chance, but this is where I got him right now. Yeah, relic 3, IG, no one cares about right now. Zam, gonna use Zam a little bit, but that's where she's actually still pretty quick. So for tier 1 of the challenge, I'm just gonna do what I did last time. Django lead, Bosk, Boba, Greef, with Greef in there, and Zam. I'm just gonna put this on full auto. I could full auto it last time with Dengar in there instead of Greef. Should come as no surprise that it is fully autoable. So I'm trying Django lead here first because I want to just see how it goes. I really like Django lead in general for this team, whether it's GAC or I guess TW or whatever the case is. I just think that having, especially if you have Zam in there as the 5th, with her really fast, lots of thermal detonators, Bosk in there for lots of taunts and lots of buffs, Greef likewise, lots of cleanses, lots of mass assists, lots of buffs. The only thing about it is obviously not as sturdy as a Bosk or Greef Karga. Look at all those buffs, by the way. As a Bosk or Greef Karga lead, I'm not looking at Greef for the lead as of now. I think I'm going to look at either Django, Bosk, or maybe Mandalorian when he comes out. We'll see. We know what it looks like on paper, but we'll see what it looks like in practice. So obviously, again, full auto here. No surprise, I was able to full auto it last time without Greef. Tier 2, however, last time without Greef, obviously, I went Bosk lead and completed it fairly easily. I am going to try Bosk lead again in tier 2 because it's just sturdier, even if you're not getting bounty hunters resolve on everybody. And that, you'll see in a minute, is going to be pretty much full auto with the exception of wave 1, because I previously put it on full auto, and in wave 1 it was almost like an infinite loop, because obviously with Bosk lead you have to attack the weakest enemy, which is usually POW or Chirrut, and they're going to be behind 3 taunts in the 2 SRPs and bays in wave 1. So I manually did wave 1 just to get around that and get payouts, and then once you get payouts in wave 1, you can full auto it. You'll see right in here in a minute. While we're getting to that point, the stock market is crazy today. Some good news about Gilead Sciences' remdesivir drug, which was previously used to treat Ebola virus, now showing some promising results in the early stages of coronavirus treatment. It is an intravenous drug, so you will not be able to take it orally at home. God forbid you do get sick enough that you have to be hospitalized, and that's where you're going to get remdesivir. But the good news is that there is a 5 and 10 day regimen for remdesivir, And it appears as though just the 5-day treatment is enough to get out in front of an early but severe coronavirus infection. So that's really good. Stock markets are flying on that news despite the fact that GDP, gross domestic product, is really, really bad. It contracted well more than anticipated. GDP, gross domestic product, is basically the rate at which things change hands. So every transaction, well, at least every transaction that's on record, contributes to GDP. So no surprise, GDP shit the bed this last session. So here we go. Trying to get to Chirrut. I got POW out of there, so one less person to try and get around taunts to. There we go. I'm trying to get the payout to get to one of the tanks a little bit easier. But with Chirrut in there, he's always going to be the weakest one, pretty much, or POW. So we'll just get around them, and there we go, payout. So now I can go full auto. At this point, I literally walked outside to go smoke a cigarette while I was doing this. That's how confident I am, or was, that I could full auto this with this team makeup. So while we're watching this, getting towards Wave 8, Wave 8 is really the only part where it gets a little bit dicey, even on because it's on full auto. We'll get back to the markets. Yeah, they've been crazy. The stock market is pretty much completely disconnected with the economy itself, and it appears to be trading on the prospects of better times, which is good because then the market assumes that better times are close ahead, but perhaps not good because maybe the markets are getting ahead of themselves. If you aren't in the markets right now, don't buy today. Wait for some sort of a pullback or individual weakness, because if you try and chase the melt up, as it's called, you're going to get bitten or dusted. Never chase on an up day. If you see something that you like and have been looking at for quite some time with a good balance sheet, a healthy balance sheet, look to buy on individual weakness. So just be careful, because I'm generally pretty bullish, but right now the market has had such a tremendous run up, really on very little positive news. Just want to advise caution here. So it's kind of a wait and see sort of thing. But fingers crossed, things are going to get better sooner rather than later. Hopefully the small reopenings in various states are handled appropriately and people are still using PPE and social distancing, because if you think about it, right, if no matter what goes on, if everyone is wearing a mask, if everyone, practices proper hand hygiene, we should be okay, right? Because if everyone's wearing a mask, it's a lot harder for the droplets to get elsewhere. Whether you're sick, you're healthy, or whatever the case is. So as a massive truck goes by my apartment and I have the windows open, hold on, sorry. Things are clearly starting to pick back up here in the city, in New York City a little bit. If everyone is, has proper PPE on, they have masks, whether you wear gloves or not, as long as you wash your hands before you touch anything that you're either ingesting, or, before you touch your face or your eyes or whatever the case is, and doorknobs and door handles. I'm a germaphobe, so every time I touch something, whether it's a door handle or a knob or a button or whatever the case is, literally immediately after I touch it, I pure out my hands. So I don't worry about wearing gloves. As soon as I touch something, I just pure out my hands. I don't really wear a mask that often, even though I probably should, but it really gets in the way of smoking cigarettes. So what can I say? Yeah, so things are looking better. Really hope that the reopenings of other states, like I said, go well and everyone's practicing proper procedures, because if they are, then we shouldn't have a tremendous resurgence of the virus. It's almost inevitable that we're going to have some, because somewhere along the line someone is going to forget to sanitize or wear a mask or whatever the case is, and they'll touch something or inhale a droplet or something like that. But at least, hopefully, with remdesivir from Gilead, we have a bona fide treatment of the disease, as opposed to a whole lot of different, almost, at-home remedies that people have been trying to test with and mess around with. Like, I saw something about like massive doses of vitamin C, massive doses of vitamin D. I don't know. So just practice proper hygiene, and we should all be okay, hopefully in the very near future. Yeah. I wouldn't go to massive crowds at any point or anytime soon. That's going to be the biggest problem in New York City, is so much of our city revenue is based off of tourism. So we're obviously going to be in a bad way with regard to that. So we'll see. Time will tell. All right, here we go. Getting into wave 8. As you've seen, fully auto. I'm keeping it on fully auto. I am committed to going fully auto. Zam gets a little low a couple of times here, as you'll see. I actually surprisingly end up losing Boba as opposed to Zam, even though she spends a good chunk of the time in the yellow here. The counter from Greef is awesome. It makes a tremendous difference. See, I'm committed to the fully auto. I'm going to lose Boba. There he goes. And then, slowly but surely, even though they're going after Pathfinder and he's going to buff everybody, that's okay. We got enough DPS and cleanses. Look at that. And that's why burn and bombs right there. And see ya. Alright, so that was a live-ish test of Greef Karga. Hope everybody enjoyed it.